What if I told you that being loved could be your greatest weakness? That the admiration of your subjects, friends, or colleagues might one day betray you? Today, we will confront a hard truth from the mind of Niccolo Machiavelli, a lesson centuries old, yet more relevant than ever. In this tale we ask, should you be loved or should you be feared? Imagine a ruler beloved by all, admired for his generosity, praised for his kindness, and revered for his mercy. He walks among his people, smiles exchanged, greetings warmly returned. To the untrained eye, this appears to be the pinnacle of power, a sovereign whose authority is secured by the hearts of his subjects. Yet, Machiavelli, the master of political pragmatism, warns us that love is not the armor we believe it to be. Love is delicate, love is fleeting, and most dangerously, love is conditional. When a ruler seeks the loyalty of his people through affection alone, he binds himself to the unpredictable whims of human desire. Affection, admiration, and gratitude are gifts that can vanish as quickly as they arrive. The same faces that beam at your presence today may conceal daggers tomorrow. In times of crisis, when fortunes shift or hardship strikes, those who claim to love you may turn away. They may see opportunity elsewhere, they may follow the stronger hand, or worse, they may betray you for the smallest advantage. Love, though intoxicating, is unreliable, and reliance on it is a perilous gamble. Consider the nature of human motivation. No man, no matter how loyal he appears, is immune to self-interest. People will risk little for love, but they will risk much when compelled by fear of consequence. They may flatter you, praise you, and honor you, but deep within, their hearts beat for survival, gain, and advantage. Affection is a fragile thread. The moment it frays, the foundations of your authority can crumble. Machiavelli understood this better than any other. He knew that rulers who sought to be loved above all else often found themselves abandoned at the very moment their strength was needed most. History offers countless examples. Leaders who relied on affection and goodwill, who trusted in the smiles and praises of their people, often fell victim to betrayal. Allies became traitors, friends became foes, and even loyal servants could turn opportunistic when circumstances demanded. Love does not command. It persuades, and persuasion can fail. It appeals to sentiment, but sentiment can be swayed, manipulated, or discarded entirely when it conflicts with self-preservation. In contrast, fear enforces obedience without requiring consent. It binds people with invisible chains that are far more enduring than the ephemeral bonds of love. Furthermore, a ruler who prioritizes being loved often compromises his own power in the process. To maintain favor, he may hesitate to act decisively, to punish wrongdoing, or to enforce laws with firmness. He may soften justice to avoid offending, restrain his ambition to avoid jealousy, or make concessions that weaken his authority. By attempting to please all, he pleases none in the long term. Love can lull a ruler into a dangerous complacency, obscuring the harsh realities of leadership and leaving him vulnerable to those who do not share his sentimentality. Machiavelli did not advocate cruelty for its own sake, nor did he dismiss the value of goodwill entirely. Rather, he observed that love, while pleasant and politically convenient at times, is never a reliable foundation for power. It can be extinguished by envy, by ambition, by fear, or simply by the shifting tides of fortune. The beloved ruler may believe himself secure, basking in the admiration of his people, while the storm of betrayal quietly gathers at the edges of his kingdom. Love, in its innocence, offers no shield against the sharp knives of reality. And so, the lesson becomes clear. To be loved is a fragile luxury. To rely on love alone is a path fraught with peril. Those who seek love above all risk weakness, vulnerability, and ultimate failure. Affection can be bought with generosity, flattery, or entertainment, but such love is shallow, transactional, and temporary. It is a mirage that vanishes when tested by adversity. In contrast, a ruler who understands the limitations of love prepares himself for the harsh truths of human nature, recognizing that power is not granted by the warmth of hearts but enforced by the respect, obedience, and fear of those who would otherwise challenge him. As we peer into this uncomfortable truth, it becomes evident why Machiavelli insisted that a wise ruler must never place his faith entirely in the love of others. Love may comfort, may flatter, may inspire loyalty for a fleeting season, but it is fragile in the face of ambition, necessity, and human self-interest. The ruler who ignores this reality does so at his own peril. For when the tides shift, and they always do, the very people who professed affection may become the instruments of his downfall. Thus, understanding the limits of being loved is not a matter of cynicism, but of survival, strategy, and the preservation of power itself. Love is fragile. Fear is steel. Unlike the ephemeral warmth of affection, fear is tangible. It commands attention, ensures compliance, and forges obedience in the hearts of men. Machiavelli teaches us that fear, when wielded wisely, is the most dependable instrument a ruler can possess. It is not born of hatred, nor of arbitrary cruelty, but of calculated control or recognition that power must be reinforced with consequence, lest it crumble into chaos. Consider the human mind. Men are naturally drawn to comfort and advantage, yet they are easily swayed by the threat of loss, punishment, or humiliation. Where love appeals to sentiment, fear appeals to survival. Those who fear you will think twice before defying your commands, plotting against you, or undermining your authority. Fear becomes a silent guardian, a vigilant sentinel that enforces order without the need for constant vigilance from the ruler himself. It is quiet, relentless, and enduring qualities that love alone cannot provide. Yet fear is not a weapon to wield recklessly. A ruler who rules through terror alone will provoke resentment, incite rebellion, and erode the very foundations of his domain. The genius of Machiavelli lies in the subtlety of fear, the understanding that it must be measured, calculated, and strategic. Fear must inspire respect, not hatred. It must ensure obedience, not vengeance. When fear is balanced with wisdom, it creates stability. When it is misused, it breeds ruin. The line between control and tyranny is narrow, but a wise ruler navigates it with precision. To rule through fear is to command without asking for consent, to enforce loyalty without relying on goodwill. The ruler who is feared is never vulnerable to sudden betrayal, for men are cautious in the presence of danger. They do not dare to conspire, nor do they challenge authority lightly, for the consequences are too severe to risk. Fear becomes a shield against treachery, a silent power that protects the ruler even when his attention is elsewhere. It is the armor of prudence, the invisible hand that keeps disorder at bay. Fear also carries the advantage of consistency. While love can waver with circumstance, fear is maintained through action. A single decisive demonstration, a just punishment, a swift response to defiance, a clear enforcement of rules establishes a ruler's reputation and ensures that future disobedience is rare. People may grumble or resent in silence, but they will comply. Fear becomes a language everyone understands. Defiance has consequences, loyalty is rewarded, and authority is absolute. This is a language that love alone cannot teach, for affection is spoken softly and is often misunderstood or ignored when inconvenient. Machiavelli emphasizes that fear should be rooted in reason and justice. Arbitrary cruelty, violence for its own sake, or unchecked brutality undermines legitimacy. The wise ruler employs fear strategically. He punishes wrongdoing, enforces laws, and demonstrates that his power is both real and inescapable. It is not hatred that sustains his authority, but the understanding that defiance carries risk. Fear, when justified, becomes a stable, enduring force that governs hearts and minds with precision. Moreover, fear allows a ruler to maintain independence from public sentiment. Love binds the ruler to the approval of others. Fear frees him from the whims of the populace. A ruler who seeks affection must constantly appease, adjust, and negotiate. A ruler who commands fear can act decisively, make difficult choices, and secure the long-term stability of his domain without relying on the unpredictable tides of favor. Fear provides autonomy, control, and clarity, qualities indispensable to the preservation of power. The lessons of history echo this truth. The most enduring leaders, the figures whose names are remembered with awe, often inspired fear as much as respect. Their authority was not merely declared, it was felt. The shadow of consequence loomed over all who opposed them. Their commands were obeyed not because of sentiment, but because survival demanded it. Fear is the hand that ensures order, the force that tempers ambition, and the invisible tether that binds a kingdom together when affection alone would falter. It is not cruelty that is praised, but calculation. Fear must be firm yet measured, visible yet restrained. It is an art, a careful orchestration of consequence and restraint. The ruler who masters fear does not merely survive. He thrives, commanding loyalty, obedience, and respect in ways that love alone cannot secure. It is the mechanism by which authority is reinforced, rebellion is deterred, and power is preserved. Fear is the foundation of control, the unshakable force that secures dominion even in the absence of admiration. And so the ruler who understands the limits of being loved and the strength of fear moves beyond the illusions of affection. He recognizes that fear, when wielded with wisdom, is the greatest ally a leader can possess. Love may soften hearts, but fear shapes them. It directs action, enforces order, and safeguards the ruler's position against the inevitable tides of ambition, envy, and betrayal that surround him. Fear is not mere intimidation. It is the architecture of power itself. Fear is a powerful tool, but wielded without care, it becomes chaos. Here lies the delicate art that Machiavelli describes, the balance of cruelty and justice. Power, in its rawest form, is not merely possession. It is management, discipline, and the careful orchestration of human behavior. To rule effectively, one must understand that cruelty, when measured and purposeful, can fortify authority, yet when excessive, it provokes rebellion and destruction. Justice, when applied strategically, inspires respect and obedience, yet when neglected, breeds lawlessness and contempt. The wise ruler navigates these forces as a master navigator steers through treacherous waters with precision, foresight, and unwavering control. Cruelty, in Machiavelli's philosophy, is not the mindless exercise of violence or oppression. It is deliberate, calculated, and instrumental. It serves a purpose: to secure the ruler's authority, enforce laws, and maintain order. The ruler who hesitates to punish wrongdoing for fear of unpopularity undermines his own power. He signals weakness, and weakness invites defiance. To act decisively, to execute justice without favor or hesitation, establishes a reputation that deters treachery and ensures compliance. Cruelty, when judiciously applied, becomes a preventative measure, a means of forestalling chaos before it can arise. Yet, cruelty alone is insufficient and dangerous. Excessive cruelty fosters hatred, sows seeds of rebellion, and corrodes loyalty. The ruler who is feared without being just is not a master, but a tyrant. He may command obedience temporarily, but such obedience is brittle, held together only by dread and the absence of alternatives. When opportunity arises, when the ruler's attention wavers, or when ambition and resentment accumulate, this brittle loyalty shatters, leaving the tyrant vulnerable to revolt. Machiavelli cautions against this extremity. Cruelty must be balanced, administered in a way that reinforces authority without provoking uncontrollable hatred. Justice, therefore, becomes the counterbalance to cruelty. It is the assurance that punishment is purposeful, that laws are upheld, and that order is maintained. A ruler who exercises justice is respected for his fairness, admired for his consistency, and trusted for his wisdom. Even fear, when tempered with justice, becomes a tool that inspires discipline rather than despair. The people understand the rules of the realm, the consequences of disobedience, and the certainty of punishment. Justice structures fear into a predictable and manageable force, transforming it from raw terror into strategic obedience. The equilibrium between cruelty and justice is delicate. Too much leniency invites disorder. Too much brutality invites revolt. The masterful ruler administers punishment swiftly yet proportionately, ensuring that no action is arbitrary or excessive. He is neither capricious nor sentimental. He acts with the singular objective of securing his power and stabilizing his realm. In this careful orchestration, fear and respect coexist. The ruler is both formidable and reliable, a figure whose authority cannot be lightly challenged. Machiavelli illustrates this principle with examples from history. Rulers who exercised cruelty judiciously, striking decisively against enemies but sparing the innocent, often secured long-lasting control. Their domains flourished under a structured system of order, law, and consequence. Conversely, rulers who mismanaged cruelty, punishing indiscriminately or sparing the guilty out of affection, quickly saw their authority eroded, their power questioned, and their kingdoms fractured. Power without balance is not power at all. It is a house built on sand, waiting for the first storm to sweep it away. The wise ruler, therefore, studies human nature with precision. He understands that men are motivated by both hope and fear, and that both must be managed carefully. He applies cruelty when necessary to enforce boundaries, eliminate threats, and establish his supremacy, but he does so within the framework of justice. Punishment is not whimsical, nor is it personal. It is functional, deliberate, and proportional. In this way, cruelty becomes a tool of governance rather than a source of hatred, and justice becomes the stabilizing force that ensures the ruler's longevity. Moreover, this balance serves as a lesson in perception. Men are quick to judge, slower to understand intention. The ruler who is cruel yet just is perceived as strong, decisive, and wise. The ruler who is merciful without discernment is perceived as weak, easily manipulated, and vulnerable. Reputation, in Machiavelli's view, is as critical as action. The ruler's image, shaped by his judicious application of cruelty and justice, becomes a silent enforcer of obedience. Fear rooted in justice commands respect, while cruelty without justice provokes hatred, and mercy without strategy invites disorder. In mastering the balance of cruelty and justice, the ruler transforms fear into a refined instrument, one that secures loyalty without breeding rebellion, enforces law without inciting chaos, and establishes authority without inviting resentment. It is a lesson of precision, of measured action, and of unflinching pragmatism. To govern is to act decisively, yet wisely, to punish when necessary, yet proportionately, and to understand that authority is maintained not by emotion, but by calculation, foresight, and the subtle management of human nature. Morality, as we understand it, is a construct of conscience, a system of right and wrong designed to guide human behavior. It is comforting, noble, and idealistic. Yet Machiavelli warns that morality alone is an unreliable compass in the treacherous landscape of power. A ruler who clings to moral ideals at the expense of pragmatism is ill-prepared for the demands of leadership. The world does not operate according to virtue alone. It is a battlefield of ambition, deception, and shifting alliances. In such a world, the ruler must prioritize effectiveness over sentiment, outcomes over principles, and the preservation of power over personal morality. Consider the dilemma. A ruler is faced with a threat, internal or external, that endangers the stability of his realm. To act with perfect morality may be honorable, but it may also be fatal. Hesitation, leniency, or adherence to an idealized code of conduct can provide openings for adversaries, undermine authority, and imperil the state. Moralism, on the other hand, demands action guided by necessity, strategy, and the realities of human behavior. It requires making choices that may be uncomfortable, unorthodox, or even morally ambiguous, but which secure the survival and strength of the principality. Machiavelli teaches that the ends, the stability and continuity of power, justify the means when morality conflicts with survival. Human nature, Machiavelli observes, is unpredictable and often self-serving. People are motivated not solely by virtue, but by desire, fear, ambition, and opportunity. A ruler who clings rigidly to moral codes risks being outmaneuvered by those who do not. To govern effectively, one must anticipate deceit, betrayal, and ambition, and respond with actions that serve the state rather than the conscience. Pragmatism allows the ruler to act decisively, to navigate threats, and to manipulate circumstances with precision. Morality can be an ideal. Pragmatism must be the reality. This does not mean that the ruler abandons all sense of ethics or resorts to wanton cruelty. Machiavelli differentiates between calculated action and reckless immorality. Pragmatism is not the pursuit of chaos, but the disciplined application of strategy in service of power. It is the understanding that actions are judged not by their intrinsic virtue, but by their effectiveness in securing stability and authority. A ruler may deceive, manipulate, or even punish harshly, but each action is guided by careful calculation rather than capricious impulse. Pragmatism tempers morality with necessity, transforming decisions from sentimental choices into instruments of governance. History offers countless examples where adherence to morality over pragmatism led to downfall. Leaders who refused to act decisively because it conflicted with conscience often watch rivals exploit their hesitation, rebellion foment in secret, and opportunities for consolidation slip through their fingers. Conversely, rulers who prioritized strategy over sentiment secured their domains, preserved authority, and navigated crises with foresight. Machiavelli's lesson is clear. The ruler who masters pragmatism understands that survival, influence, and order outweigh personal virtue in the calculus of power. Pragmatism also demands adaptability. Morality is static. Pragmatism is flexible. A ruler who clings rigidly to ethical dogma cannot respond effectively to the unpredictable flux of human ambition and political circumstance. A pragmatic ruler, however, evaluates each situation with clarity, weighs potential outcomes, and chooses the course that maximizes advantage while minimizing risk. In this, pragmatism is not cold or reckless, but intelligent, calculated, and strategic. It transforms leadership from idealistic aspiration into effective governance. Furthermore, pragmatism over morality enables a ruler to command respect without inviting unnecessary hatred. By acting decisively and strategically, the ruler demonstrates strength, vision, and control. Those who might oppose him recognize the futility of challenge and are compelled to obey, not out of sentiment, but out of understanding of consequence. Morality may inspire admiration, but pragmatism commands results. It ensures that loyalty is grounded not in emotion, but in the practical reality of the ruler's authority and capability. Machiavelli's insight is unsettling, yet invaluable. The world is governed not by ideals, but by actions. Power is maintained through decisions that reflect necessity rather than sentiment, outcomes rather than intentions, survival rather than morality. The ruler who refuses to acknowledge this truth exposes himself to instability, betrayal, and ruin. Pragmatism ensures that leadership is effective, authority is sustained, and the state endures even when virtue must be subordinated to the demands of power. In embracing pragmatism, the ruler accepts that decisions will sometimes be uncomfortable, morally ambiguous, or publicly criticized. Yet he understands that criticism fades while consequences endure. The kingdom does not survive on reputation alone. It survives on the strategic, calculated application of power. Morality is an ideal to inspire. Pragmatism is the instrument to govern. By subordinating sentiment to necessity, the ruler achieves the ultimate Machiavellian objective: stability, control, and unshakable authority over both men and the shifting tides of fortune. We have journeyed through the lessons of power, and the message is clear. To lead effectively, one must be feared, not merely loved. Love is fragile, fleeting, and unreliable. It bends with the tides of sentiment, changing with convenience, favor, or whim. Fear, on the other hand, is enduring. When wielded with wisdom, it commands obedience, deters betrayal, and fortifies authority. It is the instrument that secures the ruler's position against the unpredictable ambitions of men. We explored the power of fear as a tool of control, understanding that it must be measured, calculated, and purposeful. Unchecked, it breeds hatred. Applied judiciously, it cultivates respect. We examine the delicate balance of cruelty and justice, where decisive punishment and measured fairness reinforce authority, ensuring stability while avoiding the perils of tyranny. And finally, we confronted the uncomfortable truth of pragmatism over morality. The ruler's decisions must serve survival and the continuity of power, even when they conflict with conventional virtue. The ruler who internalizes these lessons does not lead by sentiment, he leads by strategy. He understands human nature, anticipates ambition and deceit, and governs with precision. His authority is not granted by affection, but earned through the disciplined application of fear, justice, and pragmatism. He is the master of his domain, the architect of order, and the arbiter of consequences. Love may inspire fleeting loyalty, but fear ensures permanence. Machiavelli's lesson is stark and unflinching. Power is not preserved by the heart, but by the mind. To rule effectively is to act decisively, to anticipate threats, to enforce order, and to prioritize the survival of the state above personal sentiment. Those who fail to embrace this reality risk instability, betrayal, and collapse. Those who master it endure their authority unquestioned, their dominion secure, and their legacy unforgettable. Remember this: to be feared is not to be cruel without cause, it is to command with calculation. To balance cruelty with justice is to wield fear with precision. To prioritize pragmatism over morality is to navigate the treacherous currents of power with clarity and foresight. When fear is combined with wisdom, justice, and strategy, it becomes an unshakable foundation, a force that secures dominion long after affection is faded. In the harsh world of leadership, this is the lesson every ruler must learn, the truth every ambitious leader must embrace, and the principle by which empires are built and preserved.